Today we go off the edge with the one, the only Joey Sturgis. If you're not familiar, he is a producer, a educator, a programmer, an entrepreneur.
Visionary.
This dude is amazing. He has worked with bands such as The Devil Wears Prada. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, I'm so unprepared for this. So many bands. Asking Alexandria. Yeah. The dude has gold records. You'll see him. We did this interview via Skype. Emure is another one. Attila. Shoot, man. So there's just like too many bands to even list that this dude has like produced and programmed and help write for.
He's got his own software company for musical plugins, different plugins for processing recorded audio. He's getting into
special effects.
Amplifier simulations. Which we're all excited about.
And we hooked up with him on what's called the Spotify Playlist Challenge, where it's how a band can best use Spotify. We'll go into it in detail in this podcast, but it was an eye-opening. I guess that's the word of the day. Eye-opening interview. Dude is just brilliant on another level. Really hope you enjoy this podcast because we sure enjoyed talking with him.
Absolutely. Can you hear us?
Yeah, what's happening, guys?
Oh, not a lot, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your time.
Super sorry for the wait. I was on a podcast, which I thought was this podcast.
Right? That's funny as hell, man.
That doesn't happen often.
Right?
You're a man in demand. I understand.
Right on.
How you guys doing?
Not much. We kind of picked this up as a side project to the band, so give a way to talk to other artists and other creatives and stuff like that, and share them as much as we like to share ourselves. So
right. Building community.
Yeah,
I know you know all about that. Like,
it's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this is Zach.
It's very nice
Zach.
to meet you.
I'm Matt.
Matt.
Talked a few times. I'm usually the edge over edge one talking to you, but anyway, man, just where do we want to start? At the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah, back to the beginning. So how long have you been in music now?
Well, so just in case anyone isn't familiar with me, my name is Joey Sturgis. I'm 35 years old, been in the business for about 15 years. I was born into a musical family. Every single person in my family either plays an instrument or sings. And it's been a part of my life since the very, very, very beginning. So I literally grew up on stage with my parents on tour, sort of not in like a huge band. I don't want to make it sound like, they were in like Maroon 5 or some kind of stuff like that. No, they just played like, around the 3 states that were around us. But there's pictures of me being a little baby. I've got big headphones on my ears and I'm like banging on pots and pans in the side of the stage. The funny thing about that story though, is that, I didn't aspire to be successful in music. So I actually tried to not be successful in music in some ways. I really tried to go down this whole pathway of like, let me try and learn how to like program on computers and let me get interested in computers and do all these things. And I tried that very, very hard. And then what's really amazing is that music came in, took over. But then at some weird turn of events, I found a way to combine all the success that I was getting from music and all that I wanted to do with computers and then like crossbreed them and create where I'm at today. And I promise I didn't try to do that. It wasn't like, oh, I have this devious plan. Like, this is exactly how everything's going to go. It was just sort of like what I stumbled into. And so maybe we'll get into that with my story a little bit throughout this podcast. But the way I got started in music was just organic. It was 100% natural. I learned how to play drums when I was 9 years old. And I was in often when I was at that age from like 9 to like 13, I was in bands with people who were much, much older than me. Like I was like the most talented drummer in our area. And so I was always in like the band that, needed a good drummer. And it was like almost like this weird thing where I had to grow up fast because the people around me were all in their mid 20s and going on their way to their 30s. And here I am, this little 12-year-old kid, just like learning how to play these Green Day songs and whatnot. So, yeah, that's how it all began essentially.
That's amazing, man. So then did the programming lead into the Joey Sturgis tone stuff first, or did you jump into the mixing and producing first, and then the plugins kind of come out of that? How'd that
I've
evolve?
always had a fascination with computers, just like even from an early age. I mean, I was like one of the very first people to get like, like a Nintendo 64, and then like when the internet came along, and you were getting those AOL discs in the mail all the time for like a free month of internet. Um, there was a whole like this big movement where Ford sent out computers to all of their like factory workers, their families. Each family got like a PC. It was a Hewlett Packard PC. And my parents didn't work at Ford, but my friends' parents worked at Ford, and so they were one of the families that got one of those PCs. And I remember just going to over to his house and just being like, oh my God, like I need one of these. I need to have a computer. And my family couldn't afford one at the time. And so my mom saved up some of her paycheck for like over a year. She was able to save up like $600. And we went to I think it was like I want to say like Best Buy or some kind of computer shop, and we bought a compact computer, and that changed everything for me. That was like that computer got so much mileage because I slowly upgraded it. I like changed the processor in it. I added RAM to it. I put my own hard drives in it. I was like just completely just utilizing the crap out of that computer and learning so much on it. So that sort of happened at the same time as my musical trajectory too. So I was still interested in music. I still played drums. I was doing all that stuff, but I wasn't taking it seriously. And what I would do in my spare time is I was playing computer games like PC games, or I was literally building games. Like I actually learned how to program and how to program my own video games at a pretty early age. I would go online, go to literally Amazon.com, type in DirectX video programming or OpenGL video game programming books. I would buy them, ship them to my house. They would arrive. I would open them up, go page by page, build my own games, and so yeah, like there was a whole period where I just got really deep into that whole world. And so the fast forward into later into life is now I have a big audio software company that creates audio plugins for producers, but I also have like an education platform that I built the website that we use to deliver the education to producers, teach them how to mix and produce their own records. I actually programmed that site, the original version of the site by myself. So those skill sets got used in very interesting ways later in life. But at that time, I had no idea what I was doing. I just was like, I want to program video games and I want to play drums. And I was kind of doing those two things. Eventually found myself working at a computer shop, and the computer shop thing just didn't, it was cool for a little bit of time and I was making some money, but it wasn't enough. It didn't fulfill me. I wasn't making, like, I was getting paid $6 an hour back in those days. And I just had that realization where, I would rather do this other stuff where like on the weekends I was recording demos and recording like other bands and stuff, and they were like local bands. I was like, I would rather be doing that all the time than getting paid $6 an hour to be here like, 9 to 5. So left that job, continued recording tons of bands, tons of local bands, which then turned into bands getting signed and then recording those bands. And so that's sort of how I became a producer by happenstance. It wasn't like something I set out to do. It was just sort of like I was fulfilling a need that apparently was good at, and I didn't realize it or how good I was. But I was just, people were in, like, I was in demand, is what I'm trying to say. People wanted me to do what I was doing. And so I was like, okay, well, if I'm wanted here, I guess I'll be here for these people. And did that long enough to where I built up a pretty massive career. And which brings us to the last 5 years, since 2015 to now, where I've been able to build these companies on the back of all of the success I had as a producer, building up my my reputation online, building up my social media, getting enough people to follow me to be able to launch businesses like the ones I'd launched now, and then be able to help not only the artists that make the music and the record labels and the managers and all the stuff that comes along with that, but now being able to empower other people to do what I have done, and that is to go out there and make records and make them sound the way you want them to sound and build a business on top of that.
That's amazing. And I think that's one thing that we find just so inspiring, that you're so generous with your time that way, that you want to see others succeed. You want to let people know how it all works. That's, in a lot of professions, you don't see that kind of generosity. And I think, you're obviously a very genuine guy, had some success, like you say, in a very organic way. And to be able to relate your experiences and help people grow that way themselves is pretty amazing to me. So thank you for doing that. That's really great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for the kind words.
It's funny, going back to the software, which, like your producer pack is like on my Christmas list, already
awesome.
got my Christmas list going. I kind of stumbled across you on YouTube with some of the different mix demos and stuff like that. And one of the things that we were in the middle of recording, self-produced recording our album, and I just stumbled across where you were using the explosions and the cinematic type noises in your mixes, and it just like clicked. I was like, why the hell didn't I think of this before? And so, a lot of those tips from those YouTube things made it onto our album, and it's something so simple, but
eye-opening to us.
It was like duh, and so thank you for that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember the first time I was asked, to sort of, like, I was recording this band and they wanted to take a breakdown, which at that point I was very familiar with, and I knew how to, record these breakdowns and make them sound great. They wanted to combine that with orchestra. And I was like, that's crazy enough to maybe work, actually. Let's find a way to do it. So and this is where I start to discover what I'm good at, and I didn't realize it at the time, but what I eventually found out is that I've become a very good problem solver. That's what I think my real skill set is deep down, because when you're a programmer, you're solving problems inside the computer. Like, you're essentially trying to be like, how can I show this amount of graphics on the screen without taking out this much memory? I got to solve that problem. How can I simplify what I'm doing so that the computer will be able to handle what I'm trying to do? Or like when it's a record, it's like, how can I make the guitar player trust me and get the drummer to listen to my idea, but then still make the song awesome, but then not have the band kill themselves and not destroy me at the same time? That's like another problem that you're solving, right? Like, so it's, and also with like with the stuff that Tyler and I do, where we're helping musicians like grow their music online, it's like that's another problem that I was like, I want to solve this problem. I want to figure out like why can't musicians figure out how Spotify works? I want to find out the answers. I want to solve this puzzle for everybody and help them unlock, the growth that they deserve. And so I've always been great at that, and I've always sort of approached business that way, courses, all the things that I create, the products I make, it's all based on solving problems and my ability to solve problems. And that's something that I put a lot of effort into. And I think because of that focus on solving problems, it creates an inherent value for the person that the problem is being solved for. So that's like, I guess the big thing that I unlocked for myself was to be able to find so many different ways of doing that. I do it with education, with products, with courses, with programs, and also in the studio. And that's been really fulfilling for me and very fun. And that's one of the reasons why I do it, is because I just love helping other people and providing that value.
Well, before we jump onto the education aspect of that, you say you haven't really been recording or producing in the last 5 years. Do you have a bucket list band that would pluck you out and get you back behind the console?
Well, right now, this year, I have produced a few projects, some of which I can't talk about yet. So I am, in a sense, sort of back in the saddle, not 100% like I used to be. I'm not going to be cranking out 10 albums a year like I used to. We'll be lucky if I get 1 to 2 per year at this point. But the bucket list band would definitely be Between the Buried and Me. If that band wanted to work with me on a record, I would like straight up fly to wherever the hell they want me to fly. I would stay there for however long they want me to stay, and we would make the most amazing progressive metal album ever. So yeah, I would love to work with
There we go.
Let that happen.
Yeah.
Please let that happen.
We're gonna hash Between the Buried and Me. They're gonna see this. By God.
Oh my God, those guys are amazing. I agree with you. That would be sick.
Yeah.
I've also been asked that question many times, and I've been
Yeah.
very consistent in my answers. So there's enough evidence and proof out there in the world that if they go and see something, they'll find it elsewhere. They'll see all the times I've said that. I want to work with you guys. If you're watching this, find a way to contact me. Just hit me up on Instagram.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, well, and if we can contact you on Instagram, then it shouldn't be any problem for them to contact you.
Yeah, I check every single message now. I used to ignore, there was way too many messages, but now I'm like, you know what? There's probably a lot of opportunities in this inbox. Let me take a look.
Right. So going into the education thing, we have just got done doing your Spotify playlist challenge, which was incredibly eye-opening. I don't think, the first thing you come out with is, Spotify is a social network, and I didn't realize it. I think most people don't.
It's just a different way of thinking about it. It's just a different perspective.
Yeah.
And we are finding it very beneficial.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. We're not going to give away any secrets, but
Yeah.
we train of thought, where to go? Fill in, Zach. I'm losing my train of thought.
Oh
here.
my goodness.
Put him on the spot.
Well, no. Again, just like you were saying about problem solving, that is something like the average person has no idea how Spotify works, and you took your relentless, curiosity and dove into that and made it possible to share your insights with people. And like Matt said, we found that very eye-opening. Just to be able to reach out to others, like kind of at our same level, and kind of build a community that we can all grow together. That's an aspect that we obviously try to do locally. I don't know that maybe I'm going off on a tangent. Stop me, but a lot of scenes I've noticed are super competitive and almost backbiting, and that's not conducive to, I don't know, growing really. I have a rising tide lifts all ships mentality, and I think we cultivate that locally. But your ideas of just kind of expanding that out.
Well, and that's the way the Spotify growth works, is by having that community. Um,
Absolutely.
I saw, one of your things was to throw a post out there and find out what people are listening to on Spotify. Just find out what their playlists are, stuff like that. And one guy posted, I don't listen to Spotify. I listen to Apple Music because Apple Music pays the artists more. And I almost opened up a debate there, because Apple Music doesn't give you any control. And that's, I think, the thing that we didn't realize, that a lot of people don't realize, is that, you showed us that we have a way more control over what happens on Spotify with our music than any other platform. And doing like you're saying, by connecting with other bands, by creating community, we all grow.
Right.
And that was one of the coolest aspects. But the whole course really has stuck with us. We've kind of drug our feet here in the last few days, but there's been some things going on in the world. So
Yeah.
we
Well, the most amazing part about this whole distribution sort of discovery platform kind of debate is that a lot of people look at it from a vanity standpoint, or from a face value, like the front end of it, right? So there's tons of people who will sit there and argue until they're blue in the face at, like, oh, it's not fair, the Spotify, they're not paying enough, and oh yeah, they're going to sue us, they're going into court, like, let's sign a petition, let's do all this stuff. It's like, dude, I want you to think about something for a second. When was the last time you discovered a new band that you like, that you listen to regularly? When was the last time you discovered that, and how did it happen? Because I can almost 100% guarantee, bet you, it did not happen on Apple. It wasn't on Apple Music. It wasn't on iTunes. It wasn't any of that stuff. It was because either one, somebody told you about something, or two, maybe you were down a rabbit hole on YouTube and you happen to discover something kind of cool. Three, it was on the radio or something. Or four, it was on a playlist or on Spotify. And I know I got to the fourth rung of the ladder there, but those other three things are literally unobtainable. Like, you can't just get your music out on the radio. It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a campaign properly, and even then you're only going to get a few thousand spins every week. And it doesn't make any sense, especially to a band or an artist who's trying to build an engaged audience and they don't have one yet. And if you're not going to be showing up in that town 3 months from now, your song has no business being on that radio. Because the reason why you play songs on the radio is so that you can sell your tickets. That's literally like the formula. If you go and look at the music industry, if you're about to go on tour with Tool, or like even a smaller band than Tool, like Tool's massive, but if you're about to go on tour and you're about to do this nationwide thing and you need to fill seats, you better be on the radio, because the people who listen to that radio, the blue collar radio, are the ones that fill the seats and come to the shows, and they buy those tickets every single week, month, or whatever cadence it is for the summer shows. So if you're not on those radio campaigns, people don't know that you exist, because those people don't consume internet and social media the same way that we do. Those people might check Instagram once a week, and the only people that they even look at are the ones that they follow, which are people they're already friends with, and they're just checking in to see what Bob is doing on Friday night in his garage. So the reality is, if you want to create more fans, you have to find a discovery platform that is going to help you get into listeners' routines. And with Spotify, the routine is, you've got your playlist that you love, and it's all the shit that you listen to all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that. All of us have them. We play them, we jam them. But when we get bored of that playlist, we're looking for something. We want to go out there and find more music. We want to go say, is there some other stuff that I might like? I wonder if there's some other bands. And you know what the best platform is at delivering this exact need to listeners? It's Spotify. I hands down, tell me another app that's better at this, because I don't think it's out there. It's Spotify, because it knows what you already like. It knows your listening behaviors because it's smart enough to track it. And it also knows what other songs you haven't heard because it tracks that too. So by sheer recommendation, it's able to, or sorry, by sheer association, it's able to make that recommendation properly and to give you exactly what you want to hear. And dude, I've discovered so much music through Spotify, it's insane. And I know artists don't get it yet. They think, okay, well, I need to have a big video on YouTube. I need to make an awesome music video and just get a whole bunch of people to watch it on YouTube. The reality is YouTube doesn't give a crap about your music. All it cares about is watch time. It wants people to keep watching videos. So if your video is not going to be the thing that keeps people on the site, it's going to find something else that will, and it'll show it to them instead of you. And that's not in your favor. YouTube is not fighting for you as a musician. Now they will help you, and there's a lot of things that they'll do for you. But the person fighting for you right now is Spotify. Whether you want to, you could be like, yeah, they suck because they don't pay a lot of money for streams. That's a whole financial Pandora's box. It's a puzzle that they haven't solved, and they'll figure it out, and it'll take time, and they're probably going to have to fight in court and do all kinds of things to get it right. But that's not what we're concerned with. We're not here to get paid by Spotify. We are here to find our fans through Spotify, because it is so good at discovery and it is so good at suggestion, that then you can take that audience and do something with it. You can play shows for them, you can sell them merch, you can bring them to your website, you can bring them into your mailing list, into your fan clubs, all those other things that you aren't thinking about because you're so concerned with the vanity or the front end of what you're looking at. You need to be thinking about, how do I find a repeatable process that will continue to bring me new listeners every single day. It's the same thing in business. I have a business right now where I want to find new customers to buy my plugins every single day. So what do? I can't go to Spotify to do that. I can't necessarily really go to YouTube to do that. I have to create a whole thing. You guys have it made. There's an app literally dedicated to bringing you new fans every single day, and all you have to do is learn how it works. And so that was where the epiphany came from, and that was when we decided, okay, let's build this challenge, let's build this course, but let's not just make it any normal course. Like, courses are boring. It's just like some videos on a website. You press play and then you watch the video and you're like, huh, that's cool, and then like you go back to your normal life. It was like, no, let's make this a thing where it's an experience. It's a challenge where you come in and there's 7 days to complete all these tasks, and there's all this stuff you're learning, and there's this community and everybody's helping each other, and we're also throwing like curveballs at you and you're doing all this stuff. But it's cool because that experience is what gives you the foundation of actually creating the results that you're after. And so, long story short,
it doesn't stop after 7 days.
Exactly.
This is from here on out. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, so I think it's really cool because it's been the breeding ground for what I consider to be the necessary tools to set bands up for that launch, the launch pad for them to be able to say, okay, now we know why Spotify is important. We know where we should focus our time and energy into. We know how we can develop a fan base, how we can build more fans and grow that over time. We have all the tools that we need. Now it just comes down to actually doing it. And I think there's really no other course out there on the internet. And I mean, I've looked at a lot of stuff that can actually create this as consistently as we have. We've helped over 550 artists at this point grow on this platform and given them the tools that they need. We had somebody in the last challenge, the same one that you guys participated in, who funded a music video. It cost him $6,000. He funded that music video in 48 hours using the rule of reciprocity and the stuff that we were talking about on the live streams. He used that to create a GoFundMe, got his campaign funded, got his video funded, created $6,000 out of thin air in 48 hours, filmed his music video, and he's not even done with the challenge yet. He's still going through the days.
Right?
And that's what I love about it, is that it's so open-ended. Like there's obviously a very clear defined path of what to do. Step 1 through 10, or however you want to look at it. Like, this is what you do. But for the overachievers, or the people who come in that are a little more creative than others, they come into the course and they go, holy crap, you were blowing my mind on so many different circuits that I'm going to take this and do this thing and that thing. And those are the people that have like the amazing success in the course. But even the people that follow the steps to a T, 1 through 10, or however many steps there are, it's like those people are also steadily building. They're steadily growing. I check in on artists all the time. And there was a band that posted a screenshot a long time ago. They got on like the Crash Course. It's like a pop punk editorial playlist. And I was checking them out the other day. They're almost on their way to 6 figures monthly listeners now. And so to me, I'm like, I wish I could yell this from the mountaintops, and I wish I could reach more people with this course, because I know that it helps, and that's why I want to get it to more people, because I just feel like every musician deserves to know about this opportunity as it exists right now. Eventually, this is going to go away. Think about it, guys. Spotify's on the public stock market. At some point, they're going to have to please their investors, and if they don't do it, they'll have to take extreme measures, and that could be, who knows what it could mean for us. It could mean more ads. It could mean changing the platform, the way it works, charging money for playlists, maybe charging a curator fee, maybe creating higher subscription fees, which decreases the number of people who are willing to use the platform. Who knows? It could be all kinds of stuff. But right now, we're in the golden period. This is the time to take advantage of what Spotify has given us. And so I hate it. I absolutely hate it when musicians say Spotify is evil, and they are pissed because Spotify's not paying us enough for our music. It's like, you don't even know the half of it when you say that. And so I'm glad that you guys were able to see the opportunity in front of you, and you were able to go through the challenge.
And I'm not going to speak for Matt, but I think this is something that was mentioned early on in this course, is some artists have the mindset, it's like, okay, we have content. I feel really good about it. Let's put it out there. And then there's no kind of thought about marketing. There's no kind of thought about, any of that stuff. I am kind of bad about that. Like, Matt really kicks my ass to say, dude, we can't just like create art and then not do anything with it. You got to like go the extra mile. So this has really driven that point home to me.
I want to tell, like, it's a fictional fictional story. That means not real, right? Fictional.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Yeah. So imagine an inventor who sat down and created like I guess let's talk about the coronavirus. Okay. Yeah. So this inventor, he creates a cure for coronavirus. It took him 3 years. He spent all this time and money, and he put a lot of effort into it, and it cost him $1 million to come up with the right testing environment and to get it work. And he spent years doing clinical trials and got all these people cured and did all this stuff. And so he's got it, and it's in his hand, and it's ready to go. And then you're like, dude, that's amazing. I can't believe that you did all that. And you put in all the time and effort, and you come up with this cure for this coronavirus. How are you going to release it? And he's like, oh, well, I'm probably just going to tweet it a couple times and maybe post it on my Facebook. It's like, what?
Makes no sense.
That's all you're going to do? How are
Yeah.
you not going to tell the world about this amazing cure for this virus? So it's the same thing with your music, guys. You spend a year writing a record and you go into the studio and it takes you months and months and you record it and you edit it and you mix it and you spend all this money and you shoot a huge music video and then you upload the file to YouTube and then you post about it on social media a couple times and that's it. It's sad and your music deserves more. And so what I am always telling musicians is to put 20% of, and this is going to sound bad at first, but it's true. Put 20% of your energy into creating the art and 80% of your energy into promoting it. And I know that's going to feel, at first, you're not going to understand it and it's not going to feel right. You're going to feel like, man, I feel like I'm a car salesman on the corner of the street just being like, come on down and buy these cars. They're
Right.
50% off.
That's me. Like I'm that guy. I'm
Yeah.
that guy for real.
And there's nothing wrong with it. I still feel that way after 7 years of selling stuff on the internet. But actually, it's been longer than that now. 11 years, believe it or not. Crazy. Um, so, but what you have to realize is that at some point, no one is going to know about your amazing song unless you tell them about it because they're not going to discover it on their own unless you find a way to get discovered on autopilot. And that's basically one of the ways that we show you how to do that is through Spotify because of the algorithmic playlists. Those algorithmic playlists are out there doing work for you every single day. When you tap into it, you get it right, it's going to start suggesting your music to people over and over again without you having to do the work. Now, the people don't understand that. They think, okay, I just need to have a lot of followers, or okay, I'm going to pay this dude. He promised me that he could get me like 1 million streams on my song. Let me just throw him $1,000. Okay, boom, I got my 1 million streams. It's like, dude, that's not how this works. Spotify doesn't want it to work that way because you know what? It's all fake. And if it's all fake, guess what happens to their valuation in their company? It goes down because it's not real. It's the same thing that happened to there's a big pharmaceutical company called Valiant, and this is famous. You can go look up. There's a documentary on Netflix about it. And what they did is they would buy a company who created a drug. They would raise the price of the drug, and then they could show to their investors, look, we made more money because we acquired this company and got the drug revenue to go up. But the revenue went up because the people depended on the drug in order to survive, and they increased the price of the drug. So then the insurance companies had to pay for it. So it was a false value increase. They were increasing their value falsely, and then so you know what happened to them? Their stock plummeted. It went from like 260 a share to like $2 a share or some crazy shit. So
Like
the
that bubble
reality
fast
is,
burst.
it's the same thing with music. Is that if you go out there and buy those fake listeners, those fake plays, get on those pay to play on those playlists and things like that, all that is not creating real action in the world. You're not creating a real fan base. People aren't actually listening to your music. It's a computer listening to your music. So what do you want to do? Go play a show for a bunch of computers, or do you want to play a show in front of a bunch of people, right?
Right.
So
Right.
you got to get into the idea that yes, we're all using a phone and an app and we're communicating digitally in a weird way, but at the end of the day, it's another person on the other side of that phone. You're a person creating music and listening to music, and they're a person consuming music. So you've got to find, how do we influence the people who are responsible for breaking bands? How do we influence them to suggest our music instead of somebody else, or whatever? And I'm not suggesting it's a competition, but I'm just saying that musicians are so short-sighted on this game, and that's the reason why they're failing. And so what the challenge has really been able to do is open up the minds of how to approach the idea of growing your fan base from a completely different sort of backside, rather than focusing on like, what's the most interesting thing I can post on Instagram tomorrow to try and get a few more followers and to get a few more people to click on something. It's influencing the algorithm to start doing the work for you and finding ways to get it to actually execute for you. And so yeah, that's been the big focus.
Yeah, and that's what really grabbed me is, we spent years gaining, Facebook likes and making our videos and putting them on YouTube to get that visual because, we're a visual species. But, throwing out a post or something like that is really kind of superficial as far as what we're trying to sell. And what I learn is that, what we do on Spotify is actually, we're trying to move the actual product. We're trying to get real fans of the actual music, not just some cool ass meme that we shared on the band page, or a cool picture from a show on Instagram, where they may throw a like, but that's it. Whereas on Spotify, we pick up a fan. It's because
They actually like the thing that we're creating.
yeah, it's not so much the profile picture that we created on Spotify, which I know it helps. It makes us look more professional, but at the end of the day, a fan on Spotify is a fan of the music, and that's something that the other platforms can't deliver.
And
Absolutely.
if we're not if like we're creating art, music, if no one's going to see it, then what's the point? So I think your point about really going the extra mile to promote, to use the tools available to us to get the music out there and engage people, that making the music is not even really half the challenge. So
Yeah, there's a fallacy, right? Of if you build it, they will come. I know musicians think, okay, I just need better music. Like if I had a really good song, then that would be the difference for everything. And that's true to a certain point. But I can tell you, and I can literally show you, there's albums that I've produced that are amazing albums and have really great hit songs that never people just don't even know they exist. It never broke the charts. It never got anywhere because the marketing plan was horrible. And that's not to talk crap on anyone who was involved in those projects, but it's really just to really break the ice on the concept that a great painting inside of a great building is nothing if the door's not open and people are walking through there to look at it, right? So
amen. Yeah.
so that's it, right? That's the bare bone truth of the whole thing. And I cannot come up with anything better than Spotify. I've tried. I've used hours of research and tried to come up with different things to think about and like different maybe there's a way we could do YouTube in this certain way. And yeah, you've got YouTube music and all this stuff. The problem though is those platforms have other motives, and they also aren't as focused on the maturity of what it takes to actually break an artist. And the what I'm talking about there is the playlist technology, because the Spotify has the most mature playlist technology there is, when in my opinion. And I think when you look at it holistically and logistically, I'm probably right. I don't want to like discredit, what Apple and Google are doing in the industry, and especially with Prime and Amazon and all that. But I just don't think that you find as many people as passionate about influence and music curation and playlist creation and sharing music. The platform where that is the most passionate and the most fruitful is Spotify. So, so that's what we focused on, and I think it's a good place to teach from. And in our course, the reality is what we really teach is not necessarily the mechanics or the levers and the buttons of Spotify, but more so the way to deal with the industry and how to approach music business from a personable standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
When you learn how to do that correctly, you learn basically all of the fundamental elements that you need to succeed in this business, because you're going to learn how to build the relationships with curators, which is then going to inevitably become relationships with either booking agents, managers, or A&R people, which then becomes relationships with record labels, which then becomes quite a professional endeavor when it comes to your music. And so this is the start. The start is get out there, get people listening to your music, because that's what everybody wants. If I'm a record label and I'm going to sign you, I'm betting that the money I'm risking on you, like let's say I'm giving you a $20,000 advance, I'm betting that I'm going to turn that into a profit. And so if I can't get my $20,000 back plus more money, then I'm making a bad bet. And so the way that I ensure the insurance I get on my bet comes from your ability to build fans. So if you're no good at doing that, no one can save you. There's no record label that's going to sign you and be like, yeah, we have a way to get you fans. Like, don't worry about it. It never works that way.
Right. Yeah.
You have to be able to do that yourself. And so we teach you how to get in front of more people than you're currently doing right now without spending more money on ads, a very tried and true way. And yes, it is brutal. And yes, it's almost brute force in a way, but it works. And when you do it right and you keep doing it and you're consistent, then you get to the point where, you know what? Now the algorithm's working for you. Now you're being suggested to new people every single day. And that's really the core of what I think every band is trying to get to, is like, how do you get the word of mouth working for you on the streets, but then how do you get that digital word of mouth, which is what Spotify is providing. And it's not easy. It's not easy.
No, it's work. It's work. But if you believe in what you're doing, what you're trying to share with people, then it's absolutely worth doing that work. So it's been, we keep saying it, but it's absolutely true. It's been a real eye-opening experience, and we're really grateful to you for putting this out there into the world, and we're happy to be a part of it.
I enjoy the fact that you kind of vet all of us before sharing the sign up link. I mean, I can totally see where, and I think you've talked about it in the live streams, how you get the wrong people in there. They're expecting you to do all the work, and then when they don't get results, then they're pissed off at you, and it's like, give me my money back. And so you take that extra step. You skim through our music. You talk to us. You feel us out. You're like, okay, these guys are going to work. They're not going to blame me for anything. You know what I mean? And so and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, and the for us, it's like we want to, we're not just trying to sell a course. I mean, yeah, we definitely want to do that. That'd be great. Don't get me wrong, but we want to go beyond just selling a course to a bunch of people. We want to build an actual environment where people can thrive, because then that is something that is way more valuable than anything we could ever create. If we create an environment where all of a sudden you come into our community and you're now part of people that are successful, driven, working hard, willing to help each other. Holy shit, that changes everything, because now all of a sudden you're in a place that you maybe have never had access to. You're in a place where people actually want to help you, people who care about your success. That's crazy. And when you turn that in on its head, it's like it spreads like wildfire. We started this about a year ago, and our community is still pretty small. We're into several hundreds, but we haven't hit thousands yet. But I firmly believe that when we get to that point where we are bringing in hundreds and hundreds of people into our community on a regular basis and hitting those thousands and thousands of numbers, that we're going to have the strongest community of musicians on the internet ever made. Because it's going to be so many people that are just passionate and driven about, being entrepreneurs, pushing themselves to their limits, pushing themselves past their limits, being driven for success. And I just can't wait to see what we do with that once we have that. So that's why it's so important, not just to, avoid the refunds, not just to get the people who poison the well. We want to avoid that as much as we can. It's not the only reason why we're doing it. It's the other reason is because we want to just create that amazing community that is irreplaceable. Because once we've reached that point, the stuff that we will do together as a collective community will be insane. I've seen this before. I've seen this in other areas. I've been fortunate enough to be part of several different endeavors and ventures that have done this successfully. One that I notably will mention is URM Academy, otherwise known as Unstoppable Recording Machine. This is a place where, we've gotten 5,000 people from all over the world to gather together and help each other become the best producer that they can possibly become. And it's to the point now where people come in our group and they'll be like, holy crap, like I just got laid off of work. I don't know when I'm going to be working again. It could take me 6 months to find another job. I've got to cancel my subscription. I can't afford it anymore. I need to change my whole structure to life. I might even have to move out of my place, blah, blah, blah. People will jump in on that post and offer to pay for that dude's subscription. And that blows my mind because I'm like, I'm not asking for that.
Right.
There's, and so that is such a powerful thing because that person sees that this person is going through struggle. They want to help them succeed. And who wouldn't want to live in an environment in a community like that, right? Like especially when it comes to music, because it's such a hard thing to get through. It's such a hard thing to become successful in. So how amazing is it to be a part of a place like that where people are willing to take over your subscription for you because you're going through hard times. And I want to create that. I want to replicate that for musicians. I've created that for producers. I've helped create that with my my business partners. With Tyler now, I want to help do the same thing for musicians. I want to provide that environment where people can thrive. They can rely on each other. They can help each other out. They can go on tour together. We have Band Academy tours that are happening already. It's people who are all both in the Band Academy program and then going on tour together. Such an amazing idea, and we don't benefit from that. We're not making money off of that. We're just saying, hey, work together. I mean, why not? The strength in numbers. Nobody gets rich alone, man. And so that's it. And community first. Focus on community. It's going to be the game changer. If you're one of those lone wolf kind of bands who sees everything as a competition and is trying to climb the ladder faster than everybody else, I got news for you. When you get to the top, it's super lonely. And if you haven't made friends along the way, it's going to be a lot harder to do it once you're up there. I've seen it with some of the bands that I've worked with who have built a rapid success trajectory. When you have that amount of success in such a short period of time, it's like whiplash. You're not really sure how to go about it. But when you build yourself up and you do it in a way that is beneficial not just to you but to all the people around you, and you're giving back, you're creating the actual environment that you wish you had when you started. And if everyone did that, it would just be the most amazing experience ever.
Totally agree.
So, are you currently in self-quarantine?
I am actually. So this is a funny story. We basically went to Houston, Texas last week for the rodeo. And we went there because our family, my wife's family invited us to come. And we said, yeah, we would do that. And it was 6 months ago when we were planning all this. So we have our tickets, got our hotel, got our flights, fly down to Houston. We come a day early because I typically don't like to have a flight and an event in the same day. So I try to have a flight, then go to bed, then wake up, and then go to the thing. So we're there that night. We eat at a restaurant. We go to bed. We wake up. The rodeo is supposed to start sometime in the afternoon. And we get this news that says the mayor is going to have a meeting with the city and it's going to be at noon, and they're going to decide if they should keep the rodeo open or not. And we're like, uh-oh, because the thing with the coronavirus and all that.
Yeah.
So they have the meeting and they decide we're going to shut down the rodeo because there was a person who was verified with the coronavirus who was there the day before, and they were like at the food area, and so that scared the mayor a lot and everything, and so they shut down the rodeo, which then became a domino effect. Everything started shutting down. Okay, this is going to be shut down. This is going to be shut down. This, and so we're saying, like, what are we going to do with our week? Like, we're sitting here in this hotel. We're in Houston, Texas. We've never been here before. At least I'd never been there before, and we were just like, what would we do? And I got the idea. I was like, well, if we can't do anything here, maybe we could at least go to the beach. That would be cool. We could maybe fly to like Miami or something and go to the beach. And at that point, Miami only had one confirmed case. So it was kind of like a thing where, still a safe space to be.
Yeah.
So checked out the ticket prices, booked the first flight there, went to Miami. Then I hit up my friend, and he was there and he was available. And so we got to hang out on his boat, and we went down to the Bahamas. And so I was literally escaping the coronavirus by going out to sea, and just going away from land. So that was pretty fun. But then things got crazy. Things developed as we were out there, and we were like, okay, we should probably get back. We got to fly back home. So long story short, I'm back in Detroit. Well, I don't live in Detroit, but I live out in the country. But we're back in Michigan, and we're gonna just chill here for the next couple weeks and try to, I don't know, try to stay alive, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're actually in Kansas, and I gotta say the Bahamas sounds way better than the rodeo.
Yeah.
It was
For sure.
definitely an upgrade, but also an increase in cost as well.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Before we get out of here, because we don't want to keep you too long, but the Tone Forge amp Sims, I got a request, man. We need a Sun Model T.
A Sun Model T. Okay.
No, nobody's doing Sun amps.
There's no emulation for that anywhere.
Anywhere. I rock a Helix, Head Rush, the Axe-Fx. I don't know about the Axe-Fx, but I don't think anybody has a Sun Model T. And, we need a really good Stoner Doom, just nasty.
Yeah.
Because those Model Ts are too damn expensive.
Yeah, no, I mean that could be something very interesting actually, and I do want to get away from not that I don't like working with artists. I think working with artists is great, and we are still doing all kinds of stuff with artists. You'll see coming up, but I do want to get away from that idea because in some fashion I do think it is limiting. Like I think about how somebody could currently have an amazing amp in their hands that they use as a tool to create amazing music, like on an ongoing basis, day to day, but it's not in their hands because they don't like the person whose name is sort of on the package, so to speak. And I think that's a very limiting thing in our industry. I think, and I understand it. It's not like it's human nature. I'm not gonna if there's a person I don't like, I'm not gonna buy their stuff if I don't like that person. Yeah.
Right.
So, but
Makes sense.
But if you don't like, Misha Mansour, you're missing out because that amp is dope and it's cool.
Right.
So
Right.
I think like we got to find a good we got to find a good balance, and I want to get into modeling other stuff and paying attention to the gear and being more focused on sort of the sound and not necessarily the name, and so there's a lot that goes into that, and we're working on some cool stuff, but right now we're trying to develop our own internal artificial intelligence for improving the guitar tones. So using like neural networks and things to research how can we like improve these tones, or how can we maybe mimic gear that has been celebrated for years as being some of the best gear for certain kinds of tones, and how do we bring that into an algorithm that is efficient enough to operate at the low CPU rates that people expect them to operate at and still sound authentic. And so there's all these different levers and things that need to balance out to make that happen. But I'm gonna write down that you said that, and maybe I don't know, a year from now we'll see what happens.
That's cool. We'll definitely be paying attention and keeping our ear to the ground on that.
Yeah,
So.
I want the early bird special though.
Nice.
I'll beta test it. There you go.
My dad owned for most of my childhood, my dad owned several Sun amps.
Nice.
I think we even had they made power amps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did they make a mixing board?
Yes,
I'm sure they did. Yeah.
I think we had the Sun. I recorded stuff on the Sun mixing board a long time ago. Yeah.
They were big clunky ones, like the old
huge,
TVs,
and it weighed like 1,000,000 pounds. Yeah, I remember.
Right.
It had like
thing.
3 inches between each fader, because the components back then were all hand soldered in, and it's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm not joking or exaggerating when I say this. I had I forget the name for it. I think it's called a hernia or something like that, where you try to lift something.
Give you a hernia.
Yeah, it's too heavy for you. That's my whole life. Like my dad ran sound for the Brookville fireworks and shit like that. So I was picking up like PA speakers and big fucking Sun mixers and stuff. And I literally had to go get surgery when I was a kid. My dad made me do all that stuff.
You never let him live it down, right?
Yeah.
I want to mention to you, last podcast we had these kids in here. They're in a band called Ghost in the Atlantic, kind of a gent technical metal kind of thing. Very, very good. And they were huge fans of yours. We told them we were going to be talking with you, and they freaked out. They lost their minds, and they used, what was the plugin of his that they were using? What it was? The
gain reduction.
Gain reduction too. And they're like, oh, we use this all over our stuff, dude. It's so great. They were just like, they literally just lost their mind. So I don't know that. Just want to shout out to those guys.
Shout out to you guys, and thank you guys. Don't we love every single person that uses our products. Like, we love you guys. Like, don't hesitate to reach out to us, show us what you're doing with it. Like, in fact, we don't get enough of that. I know people will post about it online and stuff, but like, I wish I knew. I know, we're selling a certain number of units every single day, and it's like, it becomes to the point where you're like not really sure what everyone's doing with it. Like, can you imagine how many people have a GoPro camera and what they're doing with their GoPros every day? It's like amazing, right? If you were the person who created GoPro, you'd be like, holy crap, look at what all these people are doing with this thing. That's how we feel, right? So like, if you're out there and you're using the JST stuff, share it with us, like send it to us, find us on social media. We love that stuff, and we love to see what you guys do with it. And thank you so much for supporting the brand and promoting it, and I appreciate the shout out, and shout out right back to you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, I definitely want Sub Destroyer, man. Putting sub drops in this last album without that sucked. I saw the demo on that and I'm like, why didn't I have it? It's such a simple plugin, but it's so good.
Oh, well, we appreciate it. We're going to dive into the plugins ourselves here, because we're pretty blown away by them. Everyone that we talked to that has used them has raved about them. So the next DOE album, I think you're going to be hearing a lot of stuff using those plugins. But
love it.
I would love to talk to you about that more, but we've been on here an hour, and I know you're a busy guy. We don't want to steal all your time. But I just want to say once again, thank you so much for spending some time with us, letting us know what it's all about, and talking about the Spotify. That's so important for all the artists out there. Can't recommend the Spotify challenge enough to any band out there that wants to get the lowdown on how to reach more people with their music. So.
And if you want to throw up some links real quick, we'll notate them.
How can people get a hold of you online?
Yeah, so if you ever want to talk to me, feel free to just reach out to me over Instagram. My Instagram is JoeyIsmusick. So it's like Joey's music, but with sick
the K
at the end.
Yeah.
And for the other stuff, so like if you are interested in growing on Spotify, you want to know more about how to unlock that algorithm, get it working for you, get your music to grow fan base on that platform, check out our challenge. It's spotifyplaylistchallenge.com. It's not open all the time, and one of the reasons why we're able to have so much success with our program is that we physically move every person through the training and hold you accountable as you're doing it. And so because of that, we can't have it open all the time because people would be starting at different points and it would just be chaos. So if you go to that URL, like maybe you're listening to this episode, weeks from now and it's closed down, put your name in the waiting list and wait for an email for when it opens back up. If you are fortunate enough to sign up while it's open, you should jump in because we will literally not only hold your hand through the whole process, but we'll make sure that nothing can stop you. Because if you come into this challenge and you find something that is preventing you from succeeding, you can come to the live streams, come to the group coaching calls, and tell us about it, and we will find a solution to whatever it is. Like I said, my ability, my superhuman power is to solve problems. So if you come to those group coaching calls with your problems, I will solve them. And if you don't do that, then you're just going to be held back. You can be sitting in the same place you were. So check out the Spotify Playlist Challenge. Take advantage of that offer. It's amazing. I know it's helped you guys. It's helped other artists. And if you want to talk to me, just reach me on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. I hope you have a safe time in lockdown.
Yeah, you too.
And hopefully all this will blow over. We'll all get back to work.
Yeah, let's hope that it April 1st we can go back to being normal and this whole thing will blow over.
Amazing.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate your time, and it was great chatting with you.
You too. Thank you very much.
Have a great evening.
You too. Take care.
You too.